I had a fascinating conversation with my guest this week, who is Joe Heller, looking at this whole issue of employment, underemployment, and underemployment, which is a great way to look at this recession and think about it in a positive way and looking at the changes that are going to come for the future. Before we entertain our panel that we have joining us here in the studio, let's look at some talking points that we're going to try to address here in this session. First of all, I want to call your attention to a fascinating book entitled, in fact, I just got to get it right, Hit the Ground Running, from Jason Jennings, which talks about what businesses should be doing and looking at this point. Really is from a chapter entitled Be Accountable. And the question that is posed, which you'll see on your screen now, who do we want to be and where are we heading? In the recession, it is a perfect time to take a pause, step back, do a reassessment, ask those type of questions, get some input and expertise that you may need to help you address those questions and issues and kind of see where we're going. The other ones are to look at kind of where we as the company, the small business, the corporation, even works for nonprofits. It is that kind of stepping back. Whether it's more training, whether it's more assessment, whether it's new skill sets that your employees need, whether it's looking at the balance between wisdom and experience that you have and perhaps new skill sets from younger people, whatever the mix that you feel you have, to be competitive, to do better customer service, to be that edge we talk about, the value added, the differences. To help us look at some of those issues, we're joined by a couple of people, but I'm going to let my wonderful guest co-host for this segment, Joe Heller, who was with us in the first half, introduce our guests.
Well, great. Well, I want to finish up on one quick point that I was about to make on the end of the first segment.
That's right. We did run out of time.
And that is trust. I mean, trust has never been more important at any given time than during this recession. And who do you trust? You trust the people that you work with. I mean, the number one reason people buy from another organization is because of the people in that organization. Mm-hmm. So it's all about the human capital.
Yep.
Now, with that, I'm excited. We've got these two experts with us today.
Alrighty.
We've got Karen Shin, immediately to my left. Karen is a partner with B2B CFO. She is a financial strategist that's going to be able to provide insights about how your business can survive and do some things that will give yourself a competitive advantage in this tricky economy. And then to her left is Eric Standlee. Eric Standlee is a shareholder and Vice President of Business Development with American Prudential Capital. American Prudential Capital offers some alternative financing vehicles, which again can give you a leg up over the competition. So welcome to our two guests.
Welcome. Tell us from your perspective, where do you see the situation we're in now vis-a-vis, quote unquote, the recession, but more importantly, where do you see where we're headed? I think that's really the more important piece.
Well, I think that what I'm seeing is that this is a time when businesses are actually focusing on their business, mm-hmm. working on the business. So when things are fast and furious, it's pretty hard to devote the energy that you need to do the thing, to look inside. And now companies are finding time to look inside. And so I think where we're heading is for a good future where we're more prepared for when the economy comes back. And I think that's the key, is to be prepared, which is, I think, the same thing that Joe was saying, is be prepared.
And that internal assessment piece, we cannot, I think, overemphasize that. This is the time to do that.
Right, right.
Eric?
Well, we're actually seeing in the financial markets a major hiccup in the private equity, and so that's providing some opportunities for business owners who want to go out and buy their competition, which is about being prepared, going after that opportunity that's being provided by lower valuations in the business market. So,
is there funds available for business acquisitions?
Yes, there is. Unfortunately, the banks aren't going to do it for acquisitions, and private equity is they're having problems with that as well. So, there are some funds, but it's you got to go to the alternative sources.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because that's kind of an out of the box thing. We were talking about the box earlier. I mean, why would somebody want to go out and acquire companies in a recession? I mean, that's something you typically do in a buy and build model when the economy is expanding.
Sure. Well, Warren Buffett says it best. He says, when people are being greedy, be fearful. And when people are being fearful, be greedy. And right now we have a lot of fear in the market. What that does is it drives down business valuations, which means we're having a fire sale right now. We've seen a lot of people who own businesses lose a lot of their money in the market, and the only thing they have left are the businesses that they have. And they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're ready to get out.
Yes.
So that's all they've got left.
And hoping to get out in the next few years.
That's right.
So now it really is it's kind of inverted situation, is it not?
It is. It really is. It's a good time to buy. It will be for the next 12 to 24 months as well.
So take advantage while the advantage is there.
That's right.
Well, tell us, what else do we see? I mean, I'm always trying to get this crystal ball perspective proactively down the road to get a feeling for what's happening. What else can we expect? What else do we see coming down the road?
Well, I would say that we are being buffered by oil and gas, and we kind of talked about this before, but the oil and gas industry is hurt right now. The price of oil is low, and that's causing some of the market to not be able to drill. And when they get to a certain point, they're going to end up having to make a choice, and that's going to cause our buffer, that protection that we've been afforded by oil and gas here in Houston, to be taken away. We'll start to feel a little bit about what the rest of the country is feeling right now.
Well, that's great. Well, and actually, I've got a question, because we're talking about general strategies, but what about more specific or company-specific strategies? Like, Karen, what are some of the things you're advising your clients right now in the marketplace to take advantage of this economic turmoil?
Exactly.
Right now, what I'm advising clients to do is look at their various lines of business and which lines are most profitable. I think that owners have an intuition or a gut feel about one line of business or the other, but they're not really taking an objective evaluation of whether or not that particular line of business is bringing in the proper margin that it should be. So you need to look at, segment the business by the lines of business, evaluate the profitability of each line, and then focus on how you can improve the margin in the poorer performing lines of business, or eliminate those and focus on the areas, the segments in which you can drive more profitability. And that's to hang on during the economy. But I think that people operate very anecdotally. They think that an area is producing, but it may not be the area that's providing really their margin.
Well, and you told me, you shared that with me the other day, and you did an analysis, and if the company had cut the one line they wanted to cut, which they thought was an underperforming line or line of business, they would have actually hurt their business by, what, 23, 20, I don't remember what the number was, but it was amazing.
Yeah.
And so how do people understand where they need to cut, or is that where people like you, the CFO like you, comes in?
Well, I think that's where we come in. I think that a lot of businesses are used to having their bookkeeper, their CPA, who does their tax returns. They keep the books. But really, what are those books telling us? That's the important thing. And that's what a CFO does for you, is it helps you identify what are these numbers saying to me, and where am I not getting the numbers I ought to be getting? How can I look at a dashboard that tells me week by week how I'm performing and when a dip is coming, because you need to see the signs of change more rapidly than your competition.
And that sentimental attachment sometimes makes it very hard for people to look at cutting those lines of business. Well, unfortunately, we're about out of time, but I'll give both Eric and Karen, give us quickly whatever you think is a good closing piece that we may have not touched on that you want to make sure we get in here right quick.
Well, I would say that we're going to come out of this. Okay. I would want to be positive about this. And so the thing is, tighten your belt, look for what you can do best, and take those opportunities that are available.
Good. Karen?
Focus on your business. Now's the time to work on your business. When you have manpower and availability, that's the best place to invest.
Joe?
Well, I agree with these two. I'd actually just defer to them. These guys, I'm just proud to be on the same show with them.
Well, and I would say there's not enough time to get into, but I would love to have you back at some future date so we can have time to really dwell into this with more, because I think it would be interesting to do this later on down the road, a few months, to see where things are. Now, we've talked about it. We kind of gave our projection. We did our crystal balling. It'd be interesting to see a few months down the road where things really are, so we'll do that segment again. We have to take a small pause and break. You're watching Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Laurence Payne. We have a second segment coming up with two additional people going to join us here on the panel. Actually, they're clients of these two wonderful individuals, Eric and Karen, so please stay tuned, and we'll be right back.